GM, my friends. Nook here, and welcome back to Nook's Choice, series where I talk about a few pieces from my collection and why I love them. Today, it's all about colors and the beauty they bring into our world. So, sorry to keep you waiting. Let's get started. I think it makes sense to start with the Chromie Squiggle by Snowfro. This one here is Chromie Squiggle number 9618, and this one is one of the more special pieces of my collection. I was graciously gifted this one from Snowfro, and it was truly a very, very special moment for me. I always absolutely loved what the Chromie Squiggle represented, both in generative art and just the beauty that it brings into the world, and I knew if I was going to do my love for colors, I had to start with this one. Gracious for this gift, but also gracious for his friendship. And there's also a beauty of 9618, because 96 was the year that my sister was born, and in Jewish tradition, number 18 is also a numerical value of the Hebrew word chai, which means life. So this squiggle reminds me of my sister and her love for art as well. Let's move on to the next piece here, this one titled Mejor Fiesta by MCHX. So this one was also a gift from the artist, and MCHX was an artist that I discovered around the same time that I was exposed to Mark Rothko's color field works. And I remember Tony Marinara was collecting a few of these color field works, and I was just absolutely blown away at the incredible gradients that MCHX was able to create, and using new technologies in AI to create these absolutely mesmerizing color fields, both static and animated. And I mean, we had a walk and talk with MCHX where he talks about kind of the meditative state, and I totally agree with that. And I mean, I just look at his work, and it's almost like a mirror, because it just leads to so much introspection and really creates the stillness that not a lot of other works for me is able to do. And from collecting these color fields, it also led to a really great friendship with MCHX, which I'm really lucky to have. And it I mean, it goes back to, I think, my most right curve take of all time is that, I mean, the real alpha are the people that we meet and the friends that we make from all over the world because of this crazy corner of the internet that we're all involved in. So I had to include at least one MCHX work in this love for colors. So now let's move on to the flowering. This one here by Antonis Tsigari. And this has a really beautiful story behind it as well. And I actually discovered Antonis's work through Rodeo, and one of the pieces that came across my feed really took me back to this one art book that I collected from my late grandfather's place. And I mean, the reason that the walk and talk exists today, and at the time, again, I wasn't a big fan of art when he passed away, but when I was going through his art book collection, there was this one that really struck me by Hiro Yamagata. It's probably the colors and just the absolute life just radiating out of that book, and that was the only book that I took from his house that day out of the 100 plus that he had in his collection. And when I came across a similar style from Antonis on Rodeo, it instantly connected to that book that I had. And since I had such a strong connection to that one piece on Rodeo, I wanted to collect a few more for the Nook collection. So this one here, the flowering, I think is a perfect representation of the beauty of colors, the beauty of nature, the beauty of the springtime when everything coming into bloom. And again, I think this one really goes back and allows me to connect with my grandfather in a new way. And now the last one on this wall here, this one called Tone Area by 0x haiku, and this is a part of the progressive series. And I've been a long fan of this project. If you've been following my feed for some time, I post about it quite frequently, but the beauty of this project is that each time one is minted on his website, a new one starts to be created. And the creation process takes place over 24 hours, and it's a slow process where the image slowly comes into view, slowly comes into focus. And I think in a world where crypto and Web3 move so fast, this slow, methodical process, I think, is a really interesting contrast. And when I saw this one come across and start to reveal itself, I knew that it had to come into the collection because, again, I've been following this project for some time, and this was unlike anything that I saw come across before. So Tone Area had to have it in the collection, and again, highly recommend taking a look at that project if you haven't come across it yet. All right, well, let's head to the second wall. Starting with Breeze B34 by Iskra Velitchkova, also known as Pointline on Twitter. And this one was also a gift from the artist, and this is a super special piece for me. First of all, I'm so thankful for Iskra for allowing me to be a part of this beautiful collection, and also allowing us to pick the one that really speaks to us. And I want to include the description of this project here because I think it's really beautiful. So it's the enjoyment, the delight, the feast, the color, the summer dinner, what others leave for us, the breeze that we wish we'll find someday, a story that 36 people will share, a hypothetical dinner. So with this being all about color and connection, I think the reason why I chose this one specifically and wanted it really bad, and it actually now is my phone case cover as well, as so you can see that yellow tree on the left-hand side. And let me get really close so you can kind of see the detail there. But you can see it almost, that moire effect looks like almost a fingerprint in that tree. And when I was looking at all of the different outputs, I knew this one had to go in the collection. A couple summers ago, my wife and I took a trip out to Colorado, and we got to witness the beauty of the fall time there, where the aspen trees just turn this yellow unlike anything that I've ever seen before. And I mean, the fingerprint in this yellow tree to me is me and my wife and our dog all just getting lost in Mother Nature's yellow and taking us back to that amazing trip that we were able to share together. So whenever I look at this work, whenever I look at my phone, it brings me back to that, and I'm really thankful for Iskra for allowing me to almost have this be that conduit to that amazing memory that I have. And hopefully for that hypothetical dinner, we can get all the Breeze collectors together for a real one sometime in the future. Next, we're going to go to Fields number 608 by Erik Swahn. And absolutely love this project. This was a collector curated, so this was actually the piece that I selected to mint. And this exhibition was all about imperfections. And I thought this piece in particular, and this project in particular, really spoke to me, because you can, see that beautiful sunset, but you can also see that it's flawed. Like, it doesn't perfectly line up in the bottom. There's some gaps in the middle, and I think this is a perfect analogy for all of us, that flaws should be appreciated. There's beauty in imperfection, and if everything was perfect, I don't think that it would be. So absolutely love this project. I think the composition of this one and the colors, I knew that this had to be a part of this collection that I was talking about here today. We've got a few more that we're going to get to. This one here being a commission that I got from the artist, this one called Sediments number 1872V. And this piece here is by Nuno Sosa. So I've been a long fan of Nuno's Sediments work for quite some time, and I actually reached out to him to see if he'd be willing to do a commission work. So this one here was after a trip to Yellowstone where we were able to see Grand Prismatic. I thought, what better way to represent that in art form than having Nuno create something within his Sediment series. So this here is kind of the birth of Grand Prismatic through the lens of Sediments, and the colors, the form, the amorphous shapes, like it almost reminds me like this is what Mother Nature did over the course of millions, billions of years to create just the beauty that we have within our national parks in America and all over the world. And again, I mean, Mother Nature is the best artist, and we should all do what we can to preserve that art as best as we can. And last but not least, we have the Two Stripe series by Anna Beller, and I picked out 4 for us to look at here today. And what strikes me about this collection is just the simple beauty in her work. It's not flashy, but the colors, the lines, the contrast, everything about it, every time I look at it just captivates me, and I really can't even put my finger on it, but I think it's just because those basic elements and just stripping everything down to them allows the essential parts of this piece to come through and not have any fluff. It reminds me of a story that I heard about how Dr. Seuss's editor at the beginning would strike out like 90% of his early drafts to help him get to the core and really make every character, every word count. So I see a lot of parallels with this series in particular, and I think it's one of the reasons why it's probably been one of my most commonly used GM posts, just because of that simple beauty that Anna was able to really bring out of this project. I think in a world where we just have so many bells and whistles and there's just so much distraction, I think I find simple beauty even more rare and coveted than I've ever felt before. And that's going to do it for our second Nick's Choice. Thank you all so much for coming on this journey here today. If you missed Nick's Choice number 1, definitely take a look at that. You can find that in the feed, and if you have any questions about any of the works that we went through here today, please leave a comment, and happy to have that discussion. And if you have any other questions, any suggestions for future series that you'd like me to do, feel free to comment about those as well. Well, thank you again for spending your time with us here today. Again, this was Nick's Choice number 2, and I'm sure we'll see you again sometime soon. Goodbye for now.